So it's been about a few months since I finished fixing up this bike. And approximately 100 miles ridden. About 70 of those miles have been off-road. So it's a good time to kind of do a review, I think, of this bad boy. It's the Trek 7000 from 1990. And let me just say a few things as I ride through this lovely little trail here. And then I'll stop and kind of do more of a breakdown. I will say, one of the things I want to say is that just in my experience so far, which is not very much, but you can have a lot of fun on a bike like this. And you can fix it up yourself pretty easily. And there's only certain times, you're going to see some of the terrain right here, where the bike feels under-prepared. So stuff like this, you're not going to fly over, for sure. And that wasn't very much. But when you get a long section of roots and rocks, that's when you feel it with this bike. But it seems to me that a lot of people hit the trails and they are very sort of overbiked. Whoops. Overbiked for the conditions that they ride on. If you're riding on something like this all the time, then a 90s mountain bike is absolutely wonderful. And if you can sort of watch for deals online, get something pretty cheap, even if you don't do any kind of resto mod or upgrades, you're still going to be able to just right out of the gate handle trails like this. So for me, it made a lot of sense as an introduction to mountain biking, since I had ridden bikes almost exclusively on the road. So if you're thinking about it, and you want to just dip in by getting yourself a 90s mountain bike, I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to be able to compete with a lot of different riders, if that's what you're looking for. But you're going to have a lot of fun. And if you're willing to do some modifications, probably get yourself a pretty sweet bike. All right, I found a little spot that I can stop and say a few things about this bike without riding. So, okay, some of my thoughts about 100 miles in on this bike here. It's been a lot of fun. There's been times I have to get off the bike and walk it up a trail because it's too gnarly, too much, too many rocks. Big rocks especially are not going to be very well handled on this bike. Big roots and really technical stuff. So it does have its limits, obviously. But on trails like the ones I'm on now, where it's mostly dirt, some gravel, and some, a little bit of roots here and there, it's really a lot of fun. And if you're just looking to get into mountain biking and you don't want to spend a lot of money, this is a really good option. I will say there's a couple things you definitely want to do if you do this. One is that you probably want to upgrade the tires from the original mountain bikes. Just something wider. The ones in front here are definitely not wide enough for some of the things I've been on. Some of the things are great. And I really like these tires as a versatile all-around tire. The one in the back here is an old school mountain bike tire. It's in some ways maybe too aggressive. It's also not as wide as I probably could go. I actually picked up some WTB, what are they called? Trail Boss tires that I'm going to put on this and see how that affects the riding. One of the main big things is the cockpit setup. So a lot of times these old mountain bikes have huge stems that go way out here and it puts you in a really downward position. You're definitely not going to want that if you're doing trails, because it's just more upright. Your weight back a little bit more is going to be better. Also, wider handlebars is definitely the way to go because they're just that much more stable, especially with a rigid fork. I've found that the brake levers on this old bike are really kind of a long reach from here, and I have pretty big hands, but I'm like 6 feet tall, and this is still kind of a reach. And so when you're really hairy kind of downhill, it can be a little scary because it's not like a one finger sort of thing that you might expect on a modern bike. So those are other things that I might upgrade at some point. What else? I definitely would not recommend spending more than, say, like $60 to $75 on a bike like this. There's a lot of bikes out there, people out there, I should say, trying to sell these old bikes as if they're worth $200, $300, $400. And they're really not. I mean, especially because if you really want them, I mean, if you want them just the way they are, I guess it's worth it to you, but they're really not worth that much, because for a little bit more than that, you can get an entry-level modern mountain bike. So, you know, I would say this bike cost me $60 on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, I can't remember. But I probably put into it, I don't know, I bought new bar, which was not very expensive. It was like $7. You know, I bought new pedals, bought new saddle. I didn't have to buy a new saddle, but I chose to buy a new saddle. Bought the tires. So, you know, all told, I'm probably close to $200 total on this bike, if not more. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to spend $200 to then put in $200, because then basically you can go and get a new entry-level mountain bike for about the same amount of money, or a little bit more. So, you know, and then you have to do the work. So one of the cool things too is that these are very serviceable, very, very workable. So it's, you know, a good place to learn how to do these sorts of things. But you definitely want to update the geometry. So that's the stem, the handlebars in particular is going to give you a more upright and a little bit weight a little bit farther back, which is good. The wider handlebars for sure. One thing about these old mountain bikes, especially from the 90s, is you can get some really cool frames, like the paint and stuff. This is just awesome. I just kind of fell in love with the black and the mint with the, you know, splattered white on it. You know, it's not the main thing that you look for in a bike necessarily, but hey, it's part of it. You know, let's be honest. You want a bike that looks cool. Basically, I wanted to try it out. I saw the frame. It was worth it to me to fix it up, to try to get off-road, and it's gotten me off-road. So it might actually lead me to get a hardtail. It might lead me to just keep upgrading this one, but if you have the time and you want to learn, and you know, just want an introduction to regular old trail riding, this is totally fine. There's a lot of people who just overbike, in my opinion, and they can do trails like this on a gravel bike or on a bike like this, or you know, even a hybrid bike to a certain extent. So you see people with like full suspension going on these gravel roads, and it seems kind of ridiculous to me. So I think it's good. I think it's worth it, but you know, a few things you probably want to upgrade as you go. There you go. Hopefully it's a helpful video. There's a lot of videos like this out there, so probably don't need this one to convince you one way or another about your 90s mountain bike lust.